Today I'm going to tackle your questions about trip planning for India. So I've collected some of your questions for this. Know that I'm also going to be changing backgrounds. I've already filmed some questions in the past. They just didn't make the cut for that first video that I put out on trip planning. But I'm also on a film studio lot right now. I will let you know, I will update you guys if you haven't already checked it out on Instagram stories. I've been kind of like, I can't talk too much about it. I will let you guys know on Facebook when my episode airs. I will apologize in advance. Being here in this trailer, my television trailer, the AC is on high, so I will kind of have to speak loud, and that will be kind of like interrupting a bit. But basically it looks, this is what we're looking at right here. Yeah. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and right next to it there's a little bell icon. Just tap that. That's notifications. It allows or lets YouTube know you want to receive my videos in an email direct to your inbox. If you enjoyed this video, you find it helpful, seriously guys, remember to like it, as well as share it with the travel community that you're in. If you're in travel forums and people are lost, or they need you know, questions answered, or they just need inspiration about solo travel, then please share my channel. And last of all, thanks again to my Indian viewers out there who are great at occasionally leaving comments and tips for other travelers, because this is a community and a lot of people are trip planning and watching these videos in order to gain an understanding of whether or not they can tackle India. There's a lot of reservations, there's fears because it's a foreign country to them. They've not seen it other than photos, heard from friends or from the media. So this is a place where we can kind of like share honesty and the reality. Next question is from Jay. He's one of my patrons, or my long-term patron. He asks or says, I have heard it's difficult to get a visa for India. I've actually been in Bangkok where there are several people waiting for visas there. Any good tips on how to get a visa and how much time is involved? I'm gonna do a separate written post for this, or a written guide for it, because there are many ways you can get your visa. The most recommended way is to get it through your own country, and that's because you will get the most amount of days on your visa for the amount of money that you're paying. You get to choose between a 6-month visa for $60, a 5-year visa with multiple entry at $150, as well as a 10-year visa multiple entry, $150. I'm not sure why that's same in terms of cost. I'm kind of wondering if it doesn't have to do with the application process. The application can be a little tricky is why. Processing usually takes around 3 to 4 days. It's actually fairly quick. But if there's any question about your application, then it might take anywhere from, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks. If you need a visa and you don't have much time to plan for it or prepare for it, take the Indian e-visa. You would apply for it online through the Indian government, and the processing takes roughly around 72 hours. They will ask you to apply for it at least 4 days before departure. The next way is to apply for the Indian visa when you're already traveling and in another country, is to go to the Indian embassy there. The only problem is that you might not get your full stay or full visa reward, I guess. When I lived in South Korea, I paid around either around $75 or $80. I paid for 3 months versus the 6 months that I could have gotten in the United States had I applied there. That's where you get a little shortchanged, and I'm sure the processing is going to be different as well. Mara asks, I'm gonna paraphrase this, can you wear sari or, you know, any other type of Indian fashion like a bindi? Or Indians are pretty open to people adopting their fashion and tradition or culture. They want to share their culture, and so they're never really like, oh, you're wearing a sari, why are you wearing a sari? Unless foreigners are disrespectful. And not only that, when you wear the fashion in their country, it's actually cooler. So even if you're traveling India during a hot period, it's whatever they're wearing, their clothing style is usually, you know, dressed for the weather. It also lets people know that you're very accepting of the culture, you know, that you're trying to embrace it. Mara also asks, are there any areas in India as a lone woman traveler that you would stay away from? I would ask your hotel front desk where they would advise you to stay away from, or where are the bad parts in town, so you can avoid those. Some travelers might say don't travel India at night, or don't go out at night in India. I'm one of those travelers who likes going out. you know, at night in India. Always make sure, of course, that you're surrounded by a lot of people. My safety travel tips video is kind of like how I operate wherever I go. Make sure you're always in lit areas and you're never in like secluded areas. If there are any Indian travelers out there who want to add to this, please sound up and let me know what you think down below about Mara's question. Are there regions that you consider unsafe? Here's some quick tips or quick comments left by other Indian travelers just on my last video, and it says, Dino, CD, safety first and always keep a low profile in any foreign place. That is true. As a female solo traveler, I always keep a low profile. I'm not like, I'm female and I'm alone. I'm not wearing clothes to attract any attention. The last thing I want to do is draw the spotlight on me, and definitely not in a sexual way. Kumar says, please carry pepper spray. Every country has bad people, and India also has them too. Make distance from a group of boys, especially in festivals like Holi, because it's common for people to drink alcohol there. I know some travelers have mentioned pepper spray. I don't know if you can get that through through the airport. All you need is a sharp point of something. I hold it like this, so that if anyone attacks, you can just easily jab. You know, so watch that safety tips video. It offers some good ideas and some helpful tips. I always travel with street smarts. The one thing about solo travel is that I can never let my guard down because I'm the only person looking out for me. In my last video, I mentioned Holi, and I made a note of caution to people who are interested in going there. And I know it's a popular festival. A lot of people are inspired to go to India because of Holi and all the colorful powders that they see in photos. But many Indian locals will advise foreign women, foreign travelers, to not participate in that festival in like the public arena. Many Indian women, you'll notice, don't like to participate in that either, and that's because Holi is known for being like a very celebratory but also sometimes rowdy area, because guys will get a little drunk or a little inebriated, and sometimes it's led to groping, it's led to touching in inappropriate areas. I went to India, I participated in Holi in the ashram that I stayed at, and even the ashram advised, you know, all of its students to stay in during that festival and not go out, because it was a little bit concerning. Because there have been so many experiences where travelers have had, you know, unfortunate happenings. I hear these days there are like hotels that are creating their own kind of like their own individual celebrations, and so that women can appreciate it in a very safe environment. I know a handful of travel bloggers out there who have written posts because they've had unfortunate experiences, and thankfully it's not changed their feeling about India, but it certainly did put a damper on their situation at the time. Ron S asks, are there any cities where I can avoid culture shock? So I had a hard time answering that. When I first traveled to India, all I did was go from Delhi airport into Delhi, and right there I was experiencing culture shock. And culture shock isn't a negative thing, it's really not. It just means cultural difference, and you can experience culture shock anywhere you go. I can experience culture shock just going from Hawaii to New York or from Hawaii to Los Angeles, because the cultural difference is great. India is the same thing. What you can do is to slightly upgrade your experiences. Hire drivers. Drivers are fairly inexpensive. I want to say that they clock in at maybe around $1,500 a day. I could be wrong. Stay at slightly nicer, moderate budget hotels versus, you know, budget hotels. Take, you know, day tours, and take all-inclusive like package tours, either booked, you know, from your country or when you arrive into India. You know, there's this magazine that's popular in New York called Time Out New York, and I believe they have them in Delhi and Mumbai, where it's kind of like this magazine for hipsters. Want to see where all the nightly events are happening, or like the coolest, trendiest restaurants that are coming out. Maybe you want to create a flashpacker tour like that. So it's younger, it's more vibrant, and you'll have more posh experiences. Mara also asks, I know that not all Indian food is spicy, but I can't do spice at all. Any food recommendations? It's a popular misconception for a lot of people to think that Indian spicy food has to do with being hot. It's not at all anything like Thai food or Korean food, where the the heat of the dish overwhelms your palate. With Indian food, I feel like they always kind of try and balance all these flavors, like salty to savory to sweet. I'm not sure if that has to do with like a history in Ayurvedic practices. The spice that you'll find in Indian food generally tends to be like actual spice, you know, like cumin powder or cardamom. Some non-spicy foods are samosas, naan, pakora, which is like deep fried vegetables, chana masala, which is chickpea masala. I love that. Sag paneer. Ooh, I gotta watch my waistline on that. It's like cheese, a paneer cheese with spinach, and it's usually a little bit of buttery. There's dal, which is lentil soup. I love that. It's like sometimes it's watery, sometimes it's a little thicker in substance, but you pour that over your rice. And so do not be afraid to ask Indian waiters what their recommendations are, or to tell them that you want something without spice, and they'll try their best to accommodate you. Some dishes have like some little condiments on the side, like little bowls of, my favorite is the yogurt, the dahi. When you experience something hot, or say you want to play off the hot, like take down the heat of or the spice of a dish, you would just add the yogurt to it and immediately it cools it. Okay, Mopora says, I'm in Varanasi, India now, and it's been a nightmare since I got to India last week. It's 3 a.m. and my train to Kolkata is 9 hours late. So far, I also had Tuk Tuk drivers get into a physical altercation with me and my Uber driver when I arrived in Lucknow at the train station. And they felt as if Uber driver was on their turf. This is just the beginning of stuff going wrong. What do you think? Please help me. I'm not a girl, but I have been a long time girl traveler. Sorry you're experiencing so much upset in your travels right now, Mopar. This is a hard one. You know, a lot of people, when they first enter India, there's a lot of culture shock. The accept it, move on advice that I gave in my most hated video, I'd say that has a lot to do with it. I'd say be more flexible. Start looking at things as more of an adventure than things going wrong. We have a lot of rules in Western culture. People can't be like weaving around. No bikes allowed, no cows allowed. The one way that I approach India is that it doesn't work with the mind or with structure. I feel like when you navigate the country, it's gotta be a little more intuitive. It's like going with the flow of things and kind of like letting go. And sometimes when you let go, it feels better. Try and keep an open mind about it, okay? In terms of Tuk Tuk drivers, this is what I want my India viewers to give me feedback about, is this kind of altercation. I understand the Uber altercation. With Tuk Tuk drivers in general, I've always experienced it. Some Tuk Tuk drivers can be a little hot-headed and get angry quicker. And so I really have to pull back in certain situations, or just kind of like, okay, you know, this is it. Let me get out here. I've had even one Tuk Tuk driver at night get upset with me because I didn't trust him, because I didn't. I didn't trust him, so he dropped me off on the side of the road in the dark. Like, this was like, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was scared shitless. And it only left me open for another Tuk Tuk driver or taxi driver to come by and kind of like hoist up that fare, or, you know, quote me a higher fare. But I gladly took it. That Tuk Tuk driver, he was so hot-headed. So I would love some of my Indian followers or friends to sound up on that. How do you deal with the Tuk Tuk drivers, you know, when they get kind of hot-headed, and is this kind of natural? Now, there was a question that was left on my channel, but I can't find the comment right now. The question was if there's anything, if you can buy your toiletries and, you know, most things in India versus bring it with you, and if it would be cheaper. I would say yes. Whatever you get in India is going to be a lot less expensive than getting it wherever you're from, I'm sure. The only question is whether or not you'll have time to look for these things, to find a grocery store, to find, you know, a pharmacy. With women, always bring tampons if you're a tampon person, because India, if it exists in India, then you might have a difficulty finding it. Insect repellent. India has insect repellent, but if you want like strong insect repellent, DEET-based insect repellent, which is strong and sometimes toxic, then bring that from your own country. You can also, though, buy mosquito repellent when you get to India, or mosquito punk, or one time I even bought like an electronic diffuser. Sometimes India will have like these things already. It's just a matter of, do you have the time to shop for it? Sorry about the AC, it's going to be blasting. I'm sorry, I don't want anyone else outside to hear me. Dominica asks, what shoes do you recommend for Delhi or Kolkata? flip-flops, sandals, or closed-toe shoes? So this is a footwear question, and for me, there's only two types of shoes I ever take with me. My shoes, my running shoes. Sometimes you might be in areas where you want to wear jogging shoes because you'll be walking a lot. And flip-flops. The one thing you're going to be doing is removing your shoes a lot when you temple hop. So you might be entering temples that have like animals, like say monkeys, or like I went to, in Vaccinations, I went to the rat temple, the Karimata rat temple, and with rats come rat poo. Walking on it was not fun. I didn't bring flip-flops that day, and I had to put my feet back into my flats, back into my shoes. Unless you want to carry that into your shoes, I would pack flip-flops for that day. If I were going urban, or visiting more urban places where I was going night clubbing, or I'm like doing some kind of like nightlife, I might take sandals or something a little nicer. Carmen asks, I'm unsure if I should take malaria pills or not. I will be in Delhi and Agra the whole time. Did you take them? I have heard about the horrible side effects. Okay, Carmen, I can't remember if I took malaria pills for India. What I would do is I would Google either cdc.gov or Google like malaria map India. And you might see like places in which you would need to be a little careful when you travel to India. Another thing I would say is visit your travel doctor if you can, or if you have one, because they will kind of like examine the maps and the places of outbreak and let you know where you might be you know, at risk. Can't remember if I took the pills or the shots. I think I took the pills because they're going to be more efficient and longer spread, like 5 years of coverage or something like that. But it was disturbing to know what the side effects could be. And at the same time, is one, I travel a lot. Two, I don't want to have to worry about where I travel, so it's nice for me to get vaccinated and just covered on all realms. Also, travel insurance. And before in the past, I never used to think too much about travel insurance because I always felt like it was an extra expense. And now that I travel a lot and I do it for my blog and for my YouTube channel and stuff like that, I realized that it's very important because not only does it help cover me in terms of medically, in case anything happens, flight cancellations, trip cancellations, things get stolen, like my gear gets stolen, I want to be covered. So I do kind of have, before I used to go with like temporary travel insurance like World Nomads, which is a good travel insurance company, and I'll leave links down below. But now I go with like annual coverage. Now I'm covered. Do I bring a sleeping bag or silk liner? It really depends on what areas of India I'm traveling to. India obviously is known for being a little more warm to hot weather. But at the same time, there are regions in India where it gets chilly or sometimes even cold. Especially up north, you'll find that it gets chilly a lot. When I was living in Dharamshala or even traveling in Ladakh, Leh, it was very cold and I needed to pack both a silk liner and a sleeping bag. If you're only staying south where it's just warm or hot, then I would say you just need a silk liner. If worst comes to worst, just ask your hotel for a blanket. Okay, Lauren asks, do you have any recommendations for the best places to visit to see the Himalayas in India? It's not like the Himalayas have been on my bucket list to see. I've kind of only seen them by accident and been like, oh my god, there's the Himalayas. This past trip that I did with Sikkim and Darjeeling, those are the two times that I actually saw the Himalayas. I'm here to catch the taxi to go see the sunrise at Tiger Hill.
Pelling is a quiet Sikkimese town located 2,085 meters above sea level.
I think the best place to see the Himalayas is probably in Nepal, where you can actually trek. It's like the rock star of the country. Check down in the description box below. There should be like links out to my website. It also takes you directly to my blog, where I've written a lot of detailed information. Thanks for joining me. If you found this video helpful, enjoyable, inspiring, please share it with other travelers out there. Again, let's help grow this GRRR-inspired community. Let's show everyone that solo travel is possible and it is adventurous and fun and safe. Okay? So until then, travel safe, smart, and fun. I will see you in India. May the GRRR be with you.